Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. I'm Nick Park, and for a number of weeks now, I have been taking through a series of messages on the great prayers of the Old Testament. We've been looking at men and women. We've been looking at prophets and kings. We've been looking at ordinary people, and we've looked at how when they prayed, God moved. We've seen how that they learned how to pray more effectively and grew in intimacy with God. And I pray that this series has helped us in our prayer walk with God, pray more effectively and grow closer to Him. Now, we have now reached the end. Today is the last one in this series. We'll be moving on to a new subject in our Take Fives tomorrow. But we were talking about Habakkuk last time. And we're going to finish by looking at Habakkuk again. Because Habakkuk, we said, it was grieved by the evil that was in the nation, and also, of course, the evil that was in the church, because as a religious community, Israel stood for both the church and the nation. And he had prayed that God would do something and say, Lord, why do you allow this sinfulness to continue? Why don't you do something about it? Well, God said, okay, I'm going to do something about it. And then God gave him a vision. And this vision was of the Babylonians, and that the Babylonians were going to sweep in and they were going to conquer Israel. And they were going to take the people captive, and it was going to be horrific. It was going to be a time of bloodshed, a time of slaughter. God would do something about the evil that was in the nation and even in the Jewish religion, but it would be a very painful process. Now, it would be effective because, as we've said before, after Babylon, the children of Israel did not return to idolatry. They may have had other faults, they may have had other failings, but they never went back to worshipping idols ever again. And to this day, the Jewish people, even scattered beyond their land for nearly 2,000 years, still maintained that they should worship God and God only. So God did answer Habakkuk's first prayer. But now Habakkuk looks at how violent the answer is going to be in the Babylonians, and he cries out again. Verse 12. Chapter 1. Lord, are you not from everlasting? My God, my Holy One, you will never die. You, Lord, have appointed them to execute judgment. You, my rock, have ordained them to punish. Your eyes are too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate wrongdoing. Why then do you tolerate the treacherous? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves? You see, the answer to Judah's wickedness was actually worse in Habakkuk's sight than the original wickedness. I mean, the people of Judah, the Israelites, they were wicked, but the Babylonians were more wicked. And Habakkuk's like saying, Lord, this is out of the frying pan into the fire, basically. And now Habakkuk prays for God to judge the judges. And there's a key verse that he uses there. Lord, your eyes are too pure to look on evil. We should never rejoice in judgment. God does bring judgment, and there are times when judgment is necessary, and we should pray for God to judge and remove evil. But we should never rejoice in the judgment, in the pains, in the suffering that comes whenever judgment falls upon a people or upon a land. And and Habakkuk says, Lord, look, he sacrifices to his net and he burns incense to his dragnet, for by his net he lives in luxury and enjoys the choicest food. He's saying these Babylonians, they've got it easy. They're living it up. They're living an opulent lifestyle now that they've conquered Israel, and once they've conquered Israel, and Lord, they're even going to sacrifice to their false gods and burn incense to their false gods. And the Babylonians who would do that, they would take the stuff out of the Jewish temple, the sacred vessels, and use them to worship their false gods. But God says, Habakkuk says that God's eyes are too pure to look on evil. And so God would not allow the Babylonians to prosper. He would bring them low and he'd bring them low as well. And he did so very quickly within one generation. But that verse, that God is of purer eyes than to look upon evil, is a verse that now has application to the cross of Jesus Christ, because Jesus took our suffering upon himself in the judgment of our sin. Judgment of our sin was not through Babylonians coming and destroying us, but it was through Jesus taking our sin and bearing it to the cross. And God could not look on the sin that his son was carrying and turned his face away, and the sky turned dark for 3 hours in the afternoon. Why? Because God is of purer eyes than to behold sin. You know, I thank God for Habakkuk's zeal to see sin judged. But I thank God as well that he has found a way to judge our sin that does not necessitate our destruction, but is found in the cross of Jesus Christ. And that seems a very fitting place to end our look at the great prayers of the Old Testament. May God bless you as you continue to progress in your prayer life, and join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.